Welcome into Dating at Her Age. Today, I want to talk about something that I'm struggling with, but it's also been a struggle kind of my whole life. And it's just basically maintaining work-life balance and including dating in the mix when you are very busy with work, when career is your life.
Right.
And that's all I've ever known. It's career, school, just really all of that. Has been my main focus, which I think I've referenced is why I wasn't prioritizing dating. But as I just get older, I continue to think about how burnt out I am, and that just the idea of reaching out to somebody or keeping a conversation going, that it's hard when you're so burnt out from work. And so I am going to lean on Debbie today a little bit, who maybe experienced this a little bit when you were younger, maybe now too.
Well, certainly now to some degree, but probably a lot more so when I was in my 20s and launching my career. And you're beyond launching your career as a lead producer here at KSL News Radio in Salt Lake, but you still have a lot on your plate that you're juggling, right? I mean, there's assignments that you get assigned to because you are such a professional, and we love, what you're able to do for us. And so we lean on you a lot to do a lot of things. And in our profession and a lot of professions, there really are no on-off valves. Right? You leave the newsroom for the day, but you may be getting calls back from people you've been trying to line up an interview with for the next day. So that could happen at 6 o'clock at night. It could happen at 9 o'clock at night, and you still feel like you have to respond to them because these are people that we have asked to be with us the next day. So, to maintain professional standards and, make sure that we have everything lined up. So it never shuts off. And when I was a young news reporter in my 20s and trying to maintain relationships, I was also traveling a lot. I was working a lot of overtime. I didn't know when my shift would begin or end. This is an issue I think a lot of people face in dating. I mean, the 9 to 5 isn't so much anymore because we even have our cell phones with us and we're checking emails and our bosses are getting in touch with us. I can see where this would be a dilemma for you. So where's your burnout coming from? Do you think it's coming from trying to date, or do you think it's coming from trying to push your career forward?
The career one, but it's also it's not even just dating, but although that just it gets put on the backward, it's all my relationships, because I just feel like I'm so busy and overwhelmed with just even when I get home and I do want to disconnect, I do end up reading and stuff, but it is hard for me to just send another message.
You're tired.
It's I've been doing this all day, and I'm so I'm the problem.
You're not.
I'm trying to take accountability for that, and I'm realizing it's a self-reflection of what role am I actually, what effort am I putting into my dating life? And I'm not really. I'm trying.
Well, you're burnt out,
and then I burn out.
Yeah, on your daily life, it burns you out. So one of the things that I've always tried to do my entire life, Caitlyn, is set goals. A 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, and a 5-year goal. And those have to be professional goals, in my view, and they also have to be personal goals. And, at least when you write these things down and you hold yourself accountable for it, you have a direction. Because otherwise you just end up at my age and go, well, wait a minute, I didn't hit it. What were my goals again? And I've talked to people about this too, even when it comes to your professional life. Where do you see yourself in 1 year, in 3 years, and in 5 years? Not only professionally, but also and I mean, of course, this would be professional, but monetarily. Where do you see your income levels in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in terms of your work-life balance in 5 years? Do you see yourself still working in the same place you are? Are you seeing yourself looking at new opportunities? Well, new opportunities are awesome, but also new opportunities bring on more stress, right? So now you're sacrificing your personal life over here because you're taking on this new opportunity to impress your boss. And I'll give you an example. In the 90s, I got a job offer, or I had an agent, a talent agent, reach out to me and say, would you be interested in moving from Salt Lake City to become a reporter? We have an opening in St. Louis, Missouri. And at first I was really excited about that. It's a step up in terms of television news markets. There's different stories to cover. It was more money. The hours were not exactly what I was looking for. You know, you'd have to start working weekends again. I'd come off weekends finally working for a TV station in Salt Lake City, TV news organization here in Utah. And so I was going to have to kind of start over again. And I thought to myself, you know, I have developed sources in the last couple of years that I've been here. I've developed, my reputation is good here. I'm really loving it here. I've got this great shift, even though I worked a lot of hours still. At least I knew I'd come off of weekends, and I'd amassed vacation time. I'd amassed some sick pay. And I said, no thanks, but no thanks to that opportunity. But I was able to sit down and okay, where are my goals? You know, where do I want to be? And do I want to take a step up here and move to St. Louis and then maybe move to LA and then maybe end up in New York? And then do I want to end up in network? And that was never really part, after I got started in the business, part of the big picture for me. So I think you have to set your goals professionally and personally as well. But if part of your goal is to be in a loving relationship in the next 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever that looks like for you, then you have to focus on that. Mm-hmm. It's rarely have I seen situations where it just drops out of the sky, and it's you have to focus on that. And then when you find that person, you have to be able to have the time and the energy to nurture that.
Yeah. And I could say I don't know what my career goals are in the next 5 years, because that's just, if something changes, it changes, I guess.
But see, then I think you're allowing life to control you.
It is, yeah.
Instead of you saying, you know, I like it where I'm at right now, but do I want to take a step up in the organization? Right. Does my career goals, do they include still being in news? Mm-hmm. I think you have to have that honest evaluation of where that's going. Because otherwise, then life just controls you, mm-hmm. and you're the CEO of your life. Yeah. So the universe can't be the CEO of your life, girl. You got to be the CEO of your life. So that's just something that you probably should start considering.
Yeah.
But then on a personal level,
I do know that I want to see change in my life of just not prioritizing. I mean, I prioritize work, but it doesn't have to be number one all the time. So I think that I am aware, okay, I do need to do something different in my just social life altogether. Because, I'm turning 30 by the time this airs.
Happy
tomorrow.
Birthday.
It'll be tomorrow. But so it's just, I think I'm just thinking about that, I'm not in a rush. I don't feel like I'm in a rush, but then I'm wow, I'm 30. So there's shifts that are happening in my mindset. But yeah, I am more excited for my 30s than my 20s, because I'm ready for my 20s to be over. So, because it's just been, I feel like people say that your 20s are the struggle, but 30s are still kind of the struggle, but you have more money and you know yourself better. So you can kind of just get it together. But yeah, so that's just what I'm thinking about. The career is I know kind of the path I'm on a little bit. It may change, but my personal one, I'm okay, if you want something to change, you have to change it. And that's what's hard, because it's not ever been a huge priority to me. I usually pick staying inside as my priority. And even when I love hanging out with my friends, but even when I just hang out with them for one day out of the weekend, it gives me anxiety because I don't feel like I was productive enough, which is bad. This is bad. We shouldn't be doing that. You should be enjoying your time with your friends. But I just man, if I would have just stayed home and did all my work and got this done and made more money, because even after I leave work, I work.
That's the safe place, right?
It's safe. Yeah,
right.
That's
it's
exactly
safe.
it.
You know, it's very predictable. And so we, as humans, I think love to be predictable because we feel safe being predictable. It's a challenge to go out and meet new people, and it's a challenge to spark a new relationship, and it's a challenge to date, and it's a challenge. And challenges can be good, but I think when we lose that safety net of just staying home and organizing our pajama drawer and our makeup drawer, it doesn't really get you to your goal.
Yeah. And I'm also a huge introvert. So some people have to pry me out. And I am grateful that I have friends that do that. They come and check on me and like say, hey, let's go do something because you've been cooped up for too long.
Would you believe me if I told you at this point in your career, it is, while you're still, looking for new opportunities, you've gotten to the point where it's not on autopilot, because that makes it sound like you're lazy, but you have established your career to a point where you can do your job without coming in here and being like, okay, where do I find the printer?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to make a phone call when there's breaking news, and who do I need to call? You've really automated that, right? Because you've been doing this a long time. So I'm looking back at myself when I was your age. Got married at 28, and I met my husband when I was like 27. So we got married a year after we met, maybe a year and a half. No, it was a year. I can't. But I was much the same. I had been a television news reporter for the better part of that, that 8 years. I mean, I'd started when I was like 23, so 5 years of that. But I'd been in the news business for a few years before that. And I knew my job, right? So if I got called out in the middle of the night, I knew exactly what to do. I knew what to bring. Things were packed out. I wasn't starting from scratch. So you're kind of, I think, at the sweet spot for saying, my career has really taken a lot to get it launched. But I'm at this point now where I know I need something in my life, and that something is love. And
or just connection.
I need connection. I need connection. Love. I need a safe place to land, somebody I can talk to on a regular basis. And that was another thing that I found difficult is, I would date in the industry. I would date men in the industry, which was safe for me because every industry has its challenges, right? And sometimes it's nice to lean on somebody who understands those challenges, so we can complain to, who can give us advice. It's hard to, and that's the spot I'm at right now, and I don't want to go down that angle at all, but am I going to meet somebody who really understands what I've spent the last almost 40 years doing, which is being in the news business? But that can also create a barrier for us if you're just looking around, in the industry you work in. It makes it, I think, more difficult for us. It creates a situation where it's like, oh, well, I don't need to go outside and meet anybody. I'll just meet somebody at work, or I'll meet somebody who's in the industry. And back in the day, I used to be out in the field a lot. So it was always somebody I was running into who's in the industry.
Right.
Today, it's a little different for us now. Since post-COVID, I think things have changed for a lot of industries. But I think what you're doing right now is something that I kind of did. And that is like, it's just, I'm in a safety zone and I don't want to disrupt it.
Yeah.
And how I ended up meeting my husband, of all things, was actually on a news story. There was a traffic accident. He was a police officer. He was helping direct traffic. It was a very, very intense and very, very sad scene. And I met him literally in an intersection. I was there covering the story as a news reporter, and he was there as a police officer who was helping to direct traffic and keep the area as safe as possible. And that's how so you never really know when you're going to meet somebody. But the thing is are you open to that?
Yeah.
And are you creating an environment where you can go out and actually maybe trip and stumble and fall into the love of your life? And that's essentially what happened with me, right? I mean, back in the day when, I wasn't dating anybody, and we just had this immediate spark and connection, and we started dating shortly thereafter. We had a mutual friend connect us. So after that. So are you open to that?
I mentally think I'm getting open to it. I think that part of it is, one, if we're just talking about like being in the industry, and that's naturally, like we talk about getting off of dating apps and finding that natural organic connection, those are the same. They think the same way as you. You're obviously going to have things in common, but there's also a fear of getting involved with somebody who maybe not even work in the same building as you, or just like you see them regularly. It could burn a bridge if it doesn't work out. So that's one thing that is a caution for me, but it's also that's where your people are most of the time. Not always, but they're like-minded people that really kind of are on the same wavelength as you. But also there's just, I think generally for me, I'm trying to be open to it by saying yes to things and not being shut off when I'm out in public and whatnot. It is also, I think, the step I have to take is also not being afraid of new connections. Part of the reason I think that I could have a fear is that if I do meet someone and it works out, it will change my life, which is a good thing. But am I ready for that change? And then also, if it doesn't work out, which is what my brain automatically assumes, like, oh, this is just going to be a problem because of just experiences. It's more of like, not a hassle, but it's caused me strain in past situations I've been in. Is it even worth that? And I think that that's part of the reason why I shy away from it a little bit, is because I'm just like nervous that it's going to cause more, it's going to disrupt my peace.
Yes. The life post meeting Chris was completely different than my life was before meeting the man who would become my husband. I mean, it just, and then on top of that, when you start dating somebody, the reality of it is you go all in, right? So you have to sacrifice your sleep, maybe.
Yeah, that's another
you
thing.
can't go home from work and spend every night. You can't go home from work and nap and then go to bed at 6 because they want to go out on a date.
That's all I do. Friday's different, but
but you have to look at your life right now and say, am I living the life that I want to live?
Mm-hmm.
And if not your personal life, then how can you change that? Because again, you're the CEO of your personal life and you're the CEO of your professional life. So what do you want that to look like? And we had a ton of fun, right? So I'll just give you an example. When you talk about, I go home and I did a lot of that too. This is just an interesting thing that people think people in the news business have this like super exciting like nightlife. I would go home from my job when I worked at the ABC affiliate in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was exhausted. I would go home. I would lay on the sofa. I had 2 cats at the time. You're welcome. And they would both fight to like lay on my stomach. They were twins, literally twins from the same litter. They were both white cats. I mean, I just love these cats. I would fall asleep for like 2 hours. And then I'd get up and I would watch whatever show was hot in the 90s. I would watch it and I'd go to bed.
That sounds exactly like my life.
Yeah.
Except
exactly
for, I usually go to the gym, I go home, I feed my cat, I chill, I relax, and then I go to bed.
I worked out, I went to the gym, I skied sometimes a lot alone. My nightlife was not filled with, I'm going to premieres and I'm on the red carpet. No, I would go home and I would pass out and then I'd get up, I'd take a shower, I'd decompress a little more, and maybe I'd eat a thing of yogurt in the fridge and scramble up an egg and I'd go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
But when I met my husband, I started doing things I'd never done before, right? I mean, he taught me how to snowmobile. He taught me how to fish. He taught me how to, we had ATVs, or his family did. So, I have a pretty adventurous spirit anyway, but these are all things that changed in my life right away, and they were exciting and fun.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is then work kind of neat. You got to make some sacrifices at work too. So I wasn't as available as I used to be for breaking news. Oh, just call Deb. She's single. She'll just go out and stand by the side of a fire and report until 10:30 at night, or we'll call her out in the middle of the night. That I had to start setting up some boundaries. But it's worth it.
Well, the boundaries, you're supposed to have those anyways.
Now, but not back then.
Yeah, well, and
I'll tell you, boundaries back then, I was like, boundaries? What are that?
Yeah.
What are those? But I think what might be lacking is you're not setting up a vision for what you want your life to look like.
And I'm not taking action. I'm starting to. I'm trying my best, but it's just really hard to even think about doing that when I think just maybe the month of January, I should just say, has been exhausting for our jobs. You would understand that too. There's just been a lot going on where I go home and I'm completely drained for the day. And I feel the same way on the weekend, but you just explained like going on ATV rides and going fishing. I was like, man, that sounds like the best weekend ever right now, to just go outside.
Absolutely.
Because that's what I've grown up doing, and I love that, and I kind of know when I crave it, but I feel like it's totally attainable here, but I'm used to it being in my backyard in Carbon County.
So what does it look like when spring opens up for you and there's no connection yet, but you got to take charge of that and you got to start making connections? Let me tell you what I see for you. I see you joining a hiking club.
Oh, okay.
Right? Or joining some sort of like an outdoor rec, if that's what interests you, some sort of like outdoor hobby group that you can go and do things. I see you, getting out and going to more, not huge concerts, because being around thousands is out, but more intimate concert settings. I see you going out and doing like, the farmer's market thing where you are putting yourself in a space that opens yourself up to meeting new people and getting back on dating apps to have that connection with somebody.
See, I don't want to do the dating apps because it just requires me to be on my phone. But I understand what you're saying. You have to try and use all the resources, but that's just another thing that puts me back on my phone. So I'm kind of just like, it sounds terrible.
I think you have to attack it from all the angles. Yeah. And if you just attack it from all of the angles you can, you will figure it out. It'll happen. But mine was just literally like, obviously I'm talking like I met my husband when I was on a news story. I mean, they could have sent any reporter to the scene. He could have been on another incident somewhere across town. So a lot of that was just, fortuitous, right? It was timing. But keeping yourself open to that timing. And I saw him, I was like, I remember him. I'd actually seen him before at a bank robbery of all things. I mean, it's just kind of wild. It's almost like I felt like the universe kept reconnecting us.
Well, yeah. So, and I was just going to say like that story, and I am a huge believer on like timing is everything and like invisible string we've talked about a little bit, but I do believe that timing is everything. And when you're ready for it, it will hopefully present itself to you, but you have to be kind of ready for it or else it's just going to not work out. And so I feel like I'm stepping into being ready for it. Because even when I thought I was ready for it like 5 years ago, and I was trying to get the attention of just like a situationship who I shouldn't say didn't care, but you know what I mean? Trying to get attention from someone who was not prioritizing me. I thought I was ready. Absolutely not. My life would have been dismantled I don't know dismantled, but it just I was not ready like I think I am now. So,
and I think through having our podcast and having these conversations, I think the one thing I think we've both learned is we don't need to waste, if you will, our time on somebody who's not showing a lot of interest in us.
So you have to decide kind of early-ish if it's worth your energy. And that's something that I think I just jumped to the conclusion of like even starting a connection, because if it comes on, I don't even want to say if it comes on too strong. Like sometimes that like there's been people who talk to me who do give me a lot of energy. It's literally everything I've asked for. Like they're responding, they reach out, all this stuff, and I just can't keep up with it because of this burnout that I have, and I want to keep up with it. But I can't, like, I just mentally can't. I go into like executive dysfunction, and then I just either don't respond and they reach out, and then I'll like not remember because I always know that they're there.
You make them feel like you're disinterested.
Yeah, and I'm not.
Oh, I know.
I'm just overwhelmed. Yeah. So, but that's me. Like, I'm actually realizing this in past situations when I've been on the other side of that, like trying to get somebody's attention, and I'm like, it's possible that they were feeling exactly how I'm feeling now. And I was giving more than they could handle. And that doesn't mean that I was giving too much. I shouldn't say that because I don't think you're ever giving too much. It's just not what they're able to handle. And they can't meet you there at that point. And I feel like I'm actually doing that. And so I'm being cautious of like not trying to lead anybody on while I'm currently trying to figure this out. But I'm also trying to be open at the same time and just respect people's time and energy. Because I obviously respect all of that because I've been on both sides of it. I also think that the reason I've been thinking about this so much, other than just turning 30.
Well, I think those are like these birthdays, these big birthdays.
There's a lot of change
Absolutely.
This year. Massive change started like 6 months ago for me. And it's just been continuing. And I'm ready for it. I'm like, I think that it's all good change. Eventually, it just is really hard to deal
Milestone
with.
birthdays do that for everybody. I think a lot of people.
Yeah,
look at
Saturn
that.
return happens anyways. That's deep. It's happening to me right now, and that's when your life gets bursts into flames and everything resets. But I another thing, I tried to reduce my screen time by blocking a lot of my social media apps the last 2 weeks.
Intentionally
Because I could not
it.
handle it anymore. It was very loud online, and I just needed to. I have no self control. Like even the iPhone self timer, you just bypass it. So I had to download a free trial of an app that literally does not let me online. I deleted all of my social media apps on my phone except for TikTok because I can't get that one back if I deleted it.
Oh, yeah.
But I noticed in that time, because my screen time went down significantly on social media specifically.
How does that work out for you?
I noticed that I had just been getting all of my connection through social media. And once I sat without it a little bit, because I could still access it, like I have a computer and I have
I'm
stuff,
not a therapist, but I think we can tend to use social media as a distraction.
It is, and you're getting connection, but it's false connection. And I realized, as I sat with myself, when I was like, okay, it's time to read a book. This is great. Hang out with my cat. I love my cat. He's amazing. He's my son. but I was like, man, I should really go. I'm lacking connection, and I don't think I've felt that for a long time.
You need to join a book club.
Yeah, well,
there's your connection.
And I have friends. I talk to people, but it's all digital.
Co-ed book club. It's not, or it is the book club from all the women who live in your neighborhood, but maybe they are willing to set you up with somebody they know, because I think we've talked about this so often.
We have.
We tend to think of a connection as just, it's a dating app, or I'm going to, a nightclub and I'm going to meet people my same age. That connection could be waiting for you at the bowling league. They're not there, but they're the brother or whatever, the sister of the person that you're connecting with at the bowling league. I think the more we open ourselves up to being satisfied with being single and being out there and being single, I think the more we stand the chance. You just increase the odds of meeting that right person. But we're not going to meet that right person. You're right. Doom scrolling social media, or going home and sequestering ourselves in our bedrooms for hours and hours every single night. We have to have things lined up. The one thing that I have noticed with me, Caitlyn, this year is I've kind of by accident had a few things each month lined up. And I'm a little disappointed in myself because I made this commitment last year to get out there more on my own, right? Force myself out as a single woman in her 50s to go out in public and meet people. And I kind of fell off of that a little bit at the end of last year. This year, I've inadvertently ended up setting up a bunch of things because friends will reach out to me for things and I'll be like, yes, I remind myself I've committed to going in my own mind, to putting myself out there more. So I say yes. But I think if I can do that at my age, you can do that. Because I would think that there's a lot of things that, a lot of groups that are getting together, a lot of singles in their 30s who are getting together that could open up that space for you to meet the right person.
Yeah, and I think it's just actually implementing that into your own life. And I think that I've said hey, get off your phone while you're standing in line and getting something so you could be open to that, which, I still try to do, but I didn't realize how much in-person connection I was lacking until I kind of took off the loud noises on my phone and that artificial digital connection. Because I live alone, so I do get a little stir crazy, and I'm like, I need to talk to somebody about this, so I'll make a Snapchat video or post something on TikTok. And that's how I'm getting it out. But you just get, is it just for the likes? There's no connection there. It's a form of connection, but you really do realize how much you need that in-person connection. And I also went to a couple hockey games the last month. And I was just like, wow, this is enjoyable because it's in person, real life. And I'm so consumed with my phone all the time. And I just don't want to do that anymore. So that's another goal that
You've already taken a huge step. I'm looking at that as a huge step to telling yourself, I need to put this away because this is an artificial connection. And I need to get out on the real world and find a real connection.
And it's much more satisfying. So I'm trying to be diligent about that as well. I don't know how long I will.
But you may need to download a dating app.
Yeah, see, but pick one. That's my argument for it is like I don't want to do another digital connection. But I get it. I get what you're saying.
Pick one. Pick the one you think that stands the best, chances for you to connect with somebody who's genuine, and focus on that one. When I'm on dating apps anymore, I pick one app. People say, "Oh, download this one and download that one," and increase. No, I'm good. I can keep up with one app, and then that way you're not trying to juggle 3 or 4 or 5 different conversations on 2 different or 3 different apps. Pick one. Sign up for something that fulfills you, because even if you don't meet somebody, you're at least doing something that is fun, right? If whether you rolled your eyes at a hiking club, okay, but you're into photography and you're really good at it. Are there photography clubs? And if not, that's a bad idea. I don't know. I like bowling. I think bowling is fun on a Sunday afternoon. Like, okay, maybe there's that. Maybe there's a book club. Maybe there's a skydiving club. Whatever floats,
I'm not skydiving, but yeah, this is
whatever
great.
floats your boat.
Yeah, no, and I'm trying to figure that there's so many things I'm interested in.
The other thing is you are single now.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that.
I've been single my whole life, so I should take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it, right? Because I can tell you from experience, once you get married, your life does change. And that's, mine changed in a lot of ways for the better, but you never go back to being single again. If you decide to get married, you don't go back to being single again. So what I'm looking at is like in my 20s, and I was going home and taking these naps in the evening, I was just tired. I promise you, I think I was still growing. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I was like, am I still growing? Because I would go home like a kindergartner, exhausted from work, and I would just pass out. Wouldn't even 2 hours. And take advantage of this time now. I think that what you're going to find is if you line up your schedule, not overload it, but if you line up your personal schedule and you set goals to meet people, you're going to find somebody and you're going to end up going in the direction, whether that is being in a long-term relationship, whether that means going to the altar at some point in your life, whether that means just, being in a dating situation with somebody where you're committed, or whatever that means for you. But I think unless we sit down and we plot goals for ourselves, my experience is it can be, your life will end up being all over the map and you're not in control of it.
Yeah. And I don't like not feeling in control because I felt that way.
And think about your if you think about your career, you knew to map your way into the news business.
I can see that. That one was easy for me to figure out.
You were like, I'm going to graduate from high school. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to take these classes. I'm going to get this degree. I'm going to get this internship. I'm going to work for free over here. I'm going to work for pay over there. And then
have a midlife crisis and then get a job that you like. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
But that was easy to plan. I don't know.
Right? So professionally, we have it figured out. But when it comes to our personal life, we allow the wind to blow us in whatever direction.
Something I've always what I told this to myself as to why that one was, and that's not easy for everybody. I feel very blessed that I kind of saw direction and I went with it, and I know that's not the case for everybody.
Right.
So I feel very grateful that for some reason something clicked in my head and I was like, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
But I do feel like that I was the one in control of my career mainly. Like, you obviously have to get hired and all that. But when it comes to relationships, you can't just make somebody else love you and just be like, hey, I like you, date me, do all that. So it's like, it's scarier, but it's kind of the same thing, I guess.
You can't make somebody hire you either.
I know, yeah, when I say that, it's true. But it's like, you can't force a romantic life partner connection.
Just before we wrap, what is it about your career that you felt so much more confident in, that you felt like you were going to get hired, but you don't feel the same way in your personal life, that somebody is out there, you can't force somebody to fall in love with you? What is it about that? Because I think you hit on something just then that this is true. But you're so confident that you're going to be able to get your foot in the door and do all the things to land that job that you're dreaming of landing. But when it comes to your personal life, you're like, I can't make somebody fall in love with me. But you couldn't make somebody hire you either.
Right. Yeah. And I wouldn't say I've always been confident in career, but I've been much more confident than personal. And I think it's just because I've always felt socially uncomfortable. I've never been one to date. It's never been my
You're
thing.
You're the same person though, every single day, whether it's professional or personal.
I know. And
You're
I think
the same person.
As I kind of have gotten older, I'm able to be more of myself and understand myself. When younger, it's just, that never was my thing.
Do you know what I think it is?
Yeah.
I think it's that, challenge me, think if I'm wrong, let me know. I think it's that when it comes to our careers, our professional choices, we have a roadmap to follow.
Yeah.
Right? We have somebody who's gone before.
Mm-hmm.
We ask for their advice. We have counselors in high school and in college that tell us what we need to do to get there. Right? You can Google it. How do we become a news reporter? It's hard to Google, how do I get somebody I don't know to fall in love with me?
Yeah.
And find the exact roadmap for that. But I think because we have had this roadmap, and sometimes we follow in our parents' footsteps, so they give us all the advice. Sometimes we don't, but they give us all the advice on how to get there. Or the neighbor down the street, he's a dentist. I want to become a dentist. I'm going to go down there and talk to him about how do I become a dentist. Or my, other friends in real estate. I'm going to go talk to him or her about how to be in real estate. I think we do a really good job of road mapping our professional lives. But then when it comes to our personal lives, and I'm guilty of it too, we do a stellar job of just allowing the universe to dictate to us what will become of our personal life.
Which I feel like sometimes you have to, but you should take control and at least give yourself a guide map like you told me to do, which I think is what I just need to do. I need to sit down and I need to think about my priorities and make the goal to go to an event once a month or something like that. Go out into the world once a month or take a class, which I do enjoy. I enjoy all of that stuff. I just feel like I get so overwhelmed that I just let it slide. And I'm just like, nah, we'll do it eventually. And then I never do it.
Find something you want to learn, like in a
guitar. There was a class in the county that I live in for guitar lessons, and I thought about taking them. But I also didn't know if it was going to be with 10-year-olds. So I was like, maybe that's not the place to go.
Make sure it's a continuing education for adults. Yeah. Honestly, because it would be a little...
Yeah, I didn't know.
Probably
I didn't know
not your thing to show up to a 10-year-old guitar class.
But something like that, it was like a hobby that I was interested in, or just anything like that, like a German class. I want to freshen my brain with foreign language and stuff like that. And that's I enjoy learning. So
think about all the people you would meet, and think about how that would create a situation where you don't go home from work and you take a nap, or you go shut yourself in doom scrolls, shut yourself in the room and doom scroll. You're actually creating a calendar for that you get out. And I'm thinking, well, guitar, that's great because people are sitting around strumming guitar. What could be better than that for a chance to talk to people? Or
find the toxic musician in the room. That's my toxic trait.
Or learning a new language.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll meet people who want to go to Germany.
Mm-hmm. Which I think part of my thing is I would enjoy learning and being productive while also socializing, because that's just how my brain works. I don't know. I have a hard time just not being productive, and I need to get better at that. I need to learn how to just sit and enjoy. And I can do it a little bit, but not a lot.
We thought of 2 things for you to put on the calendar for this year. They don't have to be all at once. That's 2 things. And then, and the summer rolls around, spring rolls around, the weather gets nice. You got to get outside.
Go on hikes. I can do that. I want to.
Or do something outdoorsy that connects you to nature, but can also potentially connect you to
humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also just want to prioritize my in-person relationships as a whole, with my family, with my friends, because I think that my connection is checking what they put on social media this week to know what they're doing in their life. No, actually go get lunch with them. Go to dinner, make a plan to hang out with those people. Because when I did my little detox, which I'm still doing it, I think I also have more time than I think that I had previously, because I was so overstimulated by all the content that was being fed to me that I didn't think I had time, which I still am burnt out, but my mind is clearing a little bit without that extra noise. So.
We can waste a lot of time on our own.
And you don't realize it.
Scrolling social media. And I think you brought up an excellent point. That's not a real connection. It's just an online, it's somebody you don't even know. You're watching a video, or maybe it is somebody you know, but instead of connecting with them in person, you're kind of doing it. You're taking the easy road and you're just liking a photo. But happy 30th, Caitlyn.
Yeah, thanks.
the great thing for you is, and nobody believes me when I say this. You're still really young.
That's what people say. I don't know.
Yeah. You're still really young.
I don't know how I turned 30.
Would it help you if I said at 57, I still feel like I'm pretty young?
You seem young. You've got life in you. So you're very active. So I think that it's great. But yeah, this was a very good therapy session, I should say, because this
Without
is something
a therapist in the room?
We're
just a friend.
Sometimes friends are just therapists. So I think that this is a good, I don't know, wake up call to me and anybody else who might be experiencing that. And I just challenge people to get off the social media for just a minute to see what it opens up for you as well.
I think too, what I hear from this, and I think a lot of us do this, is we point to all of the things we're not doing right. We dwell on that. Think of the things you are doing right. Your career. Think of that. There's so many people. A lot of people who listen to this show have done fabulous things in their professional life, or they've done fabulous things in their family life. They've raised really good kids. They've worked really hard to achieve goals in their professional life, or even with their family. And that's where you're at. You are really in a place right now where you can focus on your personal life because of all of the amazing things you've already accomplished at age 30 in your professional life. Lean into that. Look in the mirror and congratulate yourself, because you've done amazing things throughout your 20s. I mean, think about it. It's not easy to leave home in a small town and move to a large. It's not easy to break into the news business. You can say this for any business. It's not easy to get promoted, right? It's not easy for you in particular to put on a 3-hour talk show every single day, lining up new interviews and new voices and breaking news and all those things. Congratulate yourself, and then reward yourself in your personal life by saying, this is more on autopilot now because all the hard work I've done. Now I need to focus on my personal life and growing those connections, because clearly you've said, I want that. And now you just have to figure out what your goals are to get that.
First goal, go outside. I tell myself like every episode to do that. But yes, this was a very good conversation. I hope it helps others who are listening. But I've been meaning to talk about all of that. So I'm glad that I could bounce that all off of you with your experience.
A happy birthday.
Thanks.